Welcome. Buenas tardes a todos. Thank you for joining our North America, Central America, and Caribbean regional webinar today. We're excited to have all of you here. Welcome. Just to remind you, this session is going to be also streamed live on the Education USA Guatemala and also Costa Rica Facebook Live. My name is Gladys Burnett. I'm Education USA Advisor for Panama, and we're excited to have you all joining us today. We are going to remind you that you will be muted throughout the session. However, we encourage all of you to please ask questions. You can ask questions to the Q&A Jackson Cruz box, and we will be answering all those questions at the end of the session. So please make sure you ask your questions and we'll answer them at the end. So today we'll be joined by three wonderful guests representing two institutions in the United States, the University of Texas at Dallas, and also the Rollins College. And we're going to talk about if students should apply as first year or freshmen, or if they should apply as transfer students. So to move along, just as a reminder, what is Education USA? Education USA is a program of the US State Department of the US government. And we have representation in over 430 countries, 175 countries. And it's a global network of advising centers. We provide accurate and comprehensive information for about full range of accredited US higher education institutions of the 4,700 of them. And all these information about accessing this university is free for you. Everything from preparation to essays and different things you need to know about your admission. So what is Education USA? Now we're going to talk about some misconceptions, what Education USA is not. Sometimes they ask us if Education USA is an organization that provides funds or scholarships, and we are not. We're an advising organization and a network of advising centers. However, we do provide financial guidance to our students, and we guide them through different scholarship opportunities that might be available for them. They also ask if there are any opportunities to improve English, and the answer is yes. That's one of the intensive English is one of the services that some of the US universities offer. However, for some of the programs regarding applying to college or grad school, it's expected that you have a high level of English. Sometimes they ask, for example, if we can help you find a short-term study abroad program or an internship abroad. And again, we focus more on allowing you to study in the US for undergrad or grad school. However, your international visa always allows you to gain some international experience if you apply for it for 1 year. So you can get, that's one of the advantages of studying in the US, that you have that experience in the field of study for 1 year. Do you have partnerships or agreements with specific US colleges or universities? The answer is no, we don't have agreement with one university. We actually are unbiased, so we represent, again, the 4,700 different universities or colleges in the US that are accredited. So our services include they are divided in different five different steps. We help students research their options. And again, because there are so many options, we guide them through the best options for you, the best options for each student. and also guide them in their career choices. The US, it gives you the flexibility also to have majors and different minors, and there's so many possibilities that we want to make sure we guide you through the best option that you might have so you can make your own decision. And also help you and guide you towards how to better finance your studies. That includes everything from understanding what the different cost fees are or different financial opportunities that might be available for you. Also, we help you complete your application. This includes everything from reviewing your CVs, in reviewing your essays, your recommendation letters, making sure we provide tips and advice for you to complete your application and have a competitive application. Regarding the visas, we provide the information regarding what documentation you need to apply for the visa. However, the visa decision is something that is decided by the consular's office at each embassy in your host country, in your country. And also, we provide advice as far as what to do to prepare to travel when you're ready to travel to the US. And this includes everything from understanding what to pack, what to take to the airport, different types of advice that we could provide to you regarding for you to make sure that you're prepared to travel. And we're gonna go ahead and launch a quick poll just to understand where are you visiting us from? So make sure you complete and the full, all of you who are following us on Zoom. We want to know where are you joining us from, and also where in your education, where are you in your education right now? What level? So it looks like the majority of you are visiting us from Central America, 60% of you, the rest from North America. It looks like most of you are enrolled at a university in your home country. So this is very appropriate for you. 50% of you are already enrolled in your home country. And some of you are in high school or taking, 10% are in high school and 10% are currently not studying, but take some classes at the university in your home country. Excellent. Okay. Okay, so regarding today's topic, we just want to remind you that the reason why we're hosting this seminar is because we receive many students who want to apply to the United States, but how will explain to us if you would qualify as a freshman or a first-year student, or if you need to apply as a transfer student and the reasons why. And also, it's important for you to keep in mind during these presentations that every university or college in the US will have different entry requirements as freshmen or as transfer students. But today, we wanted to give you an overview of these two different types of institutions. So make sure that you ask many questions again to our Q&A box, Jackson Cruz, and we will be reading your questions at the end of the session. So again, with us, we have Dr. Juan Gonzalez. He's the Dean of Graduate Education and Associate Provost at University of Texas in Dallas. Also joining us, Avery Osborne. He's the Director of Enrollment Operations at UT Dallas as well. And we also have with us Brandy Franson. She's the Senior Associate Director of International Admissions at Rollins College. So with that, I will pass the microphone to Avery Osborne from UT Dallas.
Thank you, Gladys. So first of all, thank you all, and greetings from Dallas, Texas, and from the University of Texas at Dallas. I want to first thank Education USA and thank you all for the opportunity to provide our perspective from a public institution on how to apply as how you should apply as a freshman versus a transfer student. Next slide. So as Gladys indicated earlier, we're going to be speaking somewhat generally today because the requirements are different per institution. So I'll give you a general background of what it would take and how you should apply. So generally speaking, you should apply as a freshman if you have not completed any college level work after high school graduation, and you will not complete any college level work before you enroll. So if you have a gap year or you graduate from high school, but you don't attend college and you take a year off, for UT Dallas, you would still be considered a freshman. Alternatively, though, if you to apply as a transfer student, if you have ever been enrolled, you will complete or have completed any college level coursework after high school graduation, you're considered a transfer student. It is extremely important to choose the correct application type and to list your entire academic history. The admission requirements are different for each application type, so failure to do so can lead to delays in processing your application, cancellation of your application, and or withdrawal of your offer of admission. Next slide. So one of the questions we know that we get a lot is, what if I want to start over? Can I just admit the fact that I have already started college? Unfortunately, no. If you've completed college level work, you are required to indicate this on your application and submit official transcripts from all colleges and universities attended. I want to make a real strong note that failure to indicate you've attended college is considered academic dishonesty in many institutions in the United States and can lead to delays in, like we said earlier, delays in processing your application, cancellation of your application, and withdrawal of your offer of admission. It also it impacts your degree requirements as well. For instance, an example would be if you apply as a freshman and it's later determined that you've attended a college and let's say you've completed one term, those credits that you've taken, if we're not aware of them, we can't work with you to see if you could get academic credit for those courses, and you'll end up repeating those courses again. So you don't want to, not only do you want to, you not want to commit academic dishonesty, which could lead to the withdrawal of your application, you don't want to miss out on getting college credit for some of the courses that you've already taken. So it's always important if you're unsure, always speak with an admissions counselor to create an admissions plan if you're unsure about what to do or how to apply. We're always here to help. So always reach out to that institution. Our institution has an excellent, we have email, we have phone, we have chat. There's different ways that you can reach out to us. So with freshman application requirements, I'll quickly go over these because these are different per institution. But for UT Dallas, you want to start with completing your online application. We accept applications through what's called applytexas.org or commonapp.org. You all may be familiar with Common App, but Apply Texas is more of a general application for the state of Texas. For UT Dallas, we charge international students who are considered international a $100 application fee, and it's non-refundable. What that application fee includes is a general application fee and a credential evaluation fee. Our institution performs our own in-house credential evaluations, which is something we'll talk about a little later. You also want to submit your high school transcripts and diplomas in both the original language along with the certified English translation. Your documents in the original language is dependent upon whether or not your institution issues those documents in the original language. Meaning if your institution issues documents in English, we'll accept them in English. But if your documents are originally issued in the original language, we want those documents to be official, and with that, turn in a certified English translation. That translation can be from any certified translation company or the college, university, or high school itself. For freshman admission, we also require SAT or ACT exams. What's new for UT Dallas, we have explored a new option called test optional, where students can apply without the SAT score. Test optional means that we do what's considered a holistic review. We look at your entire academic history and make a decision not specifically based on test scores. Test scores do help, but they're optional. And then you also want to submit your English proficiency exam. We have a slide in a few moments, but we accept several different English proficiency exams, and it's required for all students. Next, for us, we have optional essays, letters of recommendations, and resumes. Why they're considered optional? For most students, if you find yourself borderline, or if you find yourself in a situation where your grades are what you consider decent, but you may not have done so well in some courses, or let's say you had a circumstance that fell out of your control, a letter of recommendation from your counselor or from someone in your community could help explain why your grades may have fallen low. So that when we go through your holistic review, we can give you an extra opportunity, because we know that overall you did a really decent job, but there was a specific situation that led to a drop in your grades. So while essays, letters of recommendation, and resumes are not required, they're optional, we do recommend them. Another thing you want to pay attention to is the application deadlines. That is different per university. Make sure that you pay attention to what's considered either their priority deadlines, the regular deadlines, and late application deadlines. For UT Dallas, our priority deadlines are important, because if you apply and complete your application before our priority deadline, you get review for what's considered early admission and for scholarship reviews. If you apply after the December 1st deadline, you may not be eligible for any scholarships. So we know that institutions around the world, that the cost of tuition is very high. So it's important to get your application in as early as possible, so you're eligible for some of those scholarships and their early admissions review. But let's say you wait until the last minute, and you decide that UT Dallas or one of the institutions is a great place for you. Be prepared that you may have to pay what's considered a late application fee. And that's a fee that's in addition to the $100 non-refundable application fee. So be aware of all the fees and all the deadlines when you're making your choice to choose your school. And then, as always, when you're submitting your application, most institutions now have an opportunity where you can go online and check the status. It's always good to, on a weekly basis, to check the status of your application, to check to see what you're missing, what additional documentation you need to provide, or anything that may hinder your application from being complete. So always check the status of your application. And like Gladys said earlier, these requirements that are listed here are specific to UT Dallas, and they vary from institution. So make sure that you check with each institution. Next slide. All right. So with transfer applications, you'll see that they're very similar. You still complete your application online. You pay that same non-refundable application fee, which includes your international credential fee. But with this, we want to make sure that you submit all your college transcripts from all institutions attended. Depending on your educational system, you may have taken exams like AB, IB, or there's different there's different courses that you may take that may be eligible for transfer credit. So if you've taken any courses, regardless of what they are, after high school completion or what's considered after 12th grade, you want to turn that in so it can be reviewed for transfer credit. As with freshman admission, you still want to submit an English proficiency exam, and essays, letters of recommendations, and resumes are still optional. Once again, you want to pay attention to the deadlines, because UT Dallas, we do offer many transfer and freshman scholarships. So you want to make sure that you apply on time. But just know that there's a distinguishment between your freshman and transfer application. For our institution, we do not require high school transcripts, SAT scores, or ACT scores for transfer admission. But that may be different for other institutions. So make sure that you look at the admissions requirements for each institution. We look strictly at your GPA and the courses that you've taken at all the colleges and universities that you've attended. So just make sure you're aware of that. Next slide. All right, so let's delve into transfer credit. Transfer credit is a tricky process. When you're transferring from different educational systems, you may be you may run into a situation where you're afraid that your coursework may not transfer. So for some reason you don't list it. Make sure you list it though. For UT Dallas, once you've applied and satisfied all the admissions requirements, we do what's considered a course by course evaluation, meaning we do an in-house evaluation. We don't accept what's considered outside evaluations done through evaluation companies such as West or any other outside evaluation company. Those are very reputable organizations, and some institutions require them, but for UT Dallas, we don't accept them. So you may ask, what is a credential evaluation or course by course evaluation, and why is it necessary? So for UT Dallas, when we're looking at your credit, we are looking at how the courses that you've taken, how will those transfer into the degree plan that you're applying to at UT Dallas. That's what the credential evaluation does. We look at transferring your course credit, your course grade, and the course level that you've taken. So we're looking at, is this a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior level course? How many credits is this course worth, and what grade that you earn? That's all important in determining your course GPA at our institution. For UT Dallas specifically, and this is not the same for all institutions, but for UT Dallas, your courses are transferred initially as what's considered general elective credit, meaning they just get standard credit. They don't get applied to your GPA, to your degree plan initially. Once you're enrolled, you'll meet with your academic advisor who will go over your each course, and they complete a process called the transfer course evaluation process. That process looks at the specific course, which means you may need to provide something like a course description or a course syllabus that shows what was taught in that course. And they will try to match that up to a course that's a part of your degree program. If that course matches, you get what's considered UTD equivalent credit, meaning you don't have to take that course again. So make sure you turn all your transcripts in, and make sure that you speak with your academic advisor about how do you get the coursework transferred from your home institution to the institution that you're applying for. And go back 1 second, and I want to make note of one thing. All institutions are different in how they apply transfer credit. For UT Dallas specifically, we only transfer what's considered academic related coursework. So it's important to note that some courses that are non-academic related, that you may have taken an internship or something like that, technical courses, vocational courses, developmental or remedial courses where you had to take a course to be eligible as a prerequisite to get into a new course, or even religious or country specific courses won't be transferred at our institution, but that's specific to UT Dallas. Thank you, Gladys. Also with transfer credit, for UT Dallas, we don't transfer in grades lower than a C. And what I mean by transferring into grades, that means that course cannot be applied to your degree plan. But it will impact your overall GPA because it is a course that you've taken. We then go in and we look at your course hours and course grades, and we convert them to a 4.0 US scale based on what we consider ACRO guidelines. It's the general guidelines that most institutions in the United States follow. We look at your contact hours. Typically, 45 contact hours is equal to 3 US credits. Contact hours is the hours that you spend in class, not necessarily including lab or work that you've done outside at home, but how many hours have you spent in that class is typically indicated on the transcript. Some transcripts indicate credit, some indicate contact hours. So if it only lists contact hours, we do a conversion to see how your contact hours will convert to US credits. Then we determine your quality points. Quality points are points that you get per the grade that you've earned. So if you earn an A in a class, generally you get four quality points. And B, you get 3 quality points, and C, and so forth and so on. So for example, if let's say you take a course called History 101 and you earn a grade of A, for that grade, you're gonna earn 4 quality points. And if that course is worth 3 credits, you're gonna get 12 quality points. That's how we determine your GPA. We look at your total quality points and we divide it by the total credits for all your attempted courses, and then we determine your GPA. So when you're looking at the institution, in the United States, the courses and grades and the curriculum is pretty set. When you're transferring from another international country, it's different per country. So most institutions have to convert all of that information to the US scale to make sure that we come up with what's considered your US GPA. Most of the time it's on a 4.0 scale. Next slide. All right, so let's delve into English proficiency. What we consider is if your native language is not English and you've been educated outside the United States, you must demonstrate English proficiency. It's to your benefit. We want to make sure that when you're in the course room, in the classes, that you're able to comprehend and understand the professor, and that you're going to be successful. So part of that is making sure that you have adequate English proficiency. This is a normal requirement for international students at all U.S. institutions for both freshman and transfer admission. What I'm going to go over here is what we require and how sometimes we may be able to waive that requirement in other ways. So at UT Dallas, you have met the English proficiency requirement and do not need to submit an English proficiency exam if you've attended, let's say, 3 or more years of US high school and graduated. So let's say you and your parents moved to the US and your 9th grade year in high school and you complete 10th, 11th, and 12th in the US. At that point, although you may be considered an international student, you won't be required to take an English proficiency exam. So you'll look at these different options depending on what you made on the SAT, different courses that you may have taken at a Texas college, and then transfer credit that you've taken at other institutions may waive the requirement for you to have to take an English proficiency exam. So make sure you look at each institution's policy on what's required for English proficiency and how it can be satisfied in other ways. Also, if your native language is English, and most of the time, I think for our population of students that we're talking to today, I don't think the native language is English. But if it is, if you can provide proof of that, or if your institution indicates in their curriculum that the language of instruction was in English, we may be able to waive your English proficiency requirement in that way as well. Next slide. So these are the actual requirements. Like Gladys said earlier, they're going to be different per university, per institution, per college. So make sure that you look at each institution. At UT Dallas, we accept a number of exams. We accept TOEFL, both internet-based TOEFL and paper-based TOEFL. We accept IELTS, Pearson's Test of English, completion of level 112 at the English Language Center, and temporarily, due to COVID, we're accepting Duolingo English tests. So for us, these are the general requirements. Most institutions are going to have different score requirements. Most institutions in the United States will accept TOEFL, but they may have a different grading requirement. So make sure you look at the specific score requirement for each institution. All right, so we're going to get to questions, but I want to kind of go over a few things that some of the frequently asked questions that we get when we get students applying for international institutions or from other countries. So one of the things that's really important is identifying what's an applicant representative. When you come to the United States, it can be a tough transition, and you may not always understand things on your own, and you may need some help. Most of the time, that help is going to come from your parents or from someone in your family that can help you through the admissions process. You want to make sure that you list that individual as an applicant representative. Giving that person access as an applicant representative gives us as an institution the access to share information about your application status that you may not generally understand, but your parents may. So giving them access to where you're at in the application process, what additional requirements you need to complete your application. You want to make sure that you've notified the institution that you want your parents or whoever to be listed as an applicant representative. Then we want to talk about what's an official transcript. That terminology is different per country. So we want to make sure for our purposes, official transcript is a certified copy of your original transcript that must be delivered directly from your high school or college to our institution in a school sealed envelope. There are some instances where some institutions can send documents to us electronically through systems like third-party vendors like Parchment or things like that. If your institution has that capability, we're more than willing to accept your documents electronically. But generally speaking, when we're receiving international documents, they're typically coming in a hard copy form. So we want to make sure that those documents are delivered directly from your high school or your college directly to our institution in an envelope that they've sealed. If you turn in a document that's unsealed, unfortunately, it is going to lead to other issues. So you want to make sure that you are providing an official document directly from the school. And then this is another question that we kind of alluded to earlier, but can I apply as a freshman if I've attended a college after I completed high school? No. At UT Dallas, you must apply as a transfer student. If you completed college level coursework and or transferring to another institution, you will need to apply as a transfer student. Applying incorrectly can impact your admissions requirements, cause delays in processing your application, and scholarship awards. So for UT Dallas, we have different scholarships at different levels. So if you apply as a freshman and you're determined not to be a freshman and we have to change your application, you could potentially lose your scholarship, or you could be asked for additional admissions requirements that could delay your application. So you want to make sure that you apply correctly. Next slide. And then a couple of more. If your documents are not issued in English, do you need to provide an English translation? Yes. If your documents are issued in a language other than English, you must submit a certified English translation of your academic documents. The translations for UT Dallas can be from either the academic institution or from any certified translation company. Unfortunately, you cannot perform the translation yourself or a friend or anything like that. It must come from a certified translation company or the academic institution. And then, as we alluded to earlier, are outside evaluations acceptable for admission purposes? Always check with the institution, but for UT Dallas, we don't accept outside evaluations. But you're going to hear from Brandon in a second from Rollins College, who's going to kind of go over what an outside credential evaluation is and why it's required. So with that being said, I want to hand it over to allow you to get a different perspective from Brandy, who's with a private institution. So I'll pass it on over to you, Brandy.
Thank you so much, Avery. Thanks everybody for being here today. I'm really excited to be able to talk to you about all of the differences. So I think one of the things that I do want to mention is I'm not going to go over everything again. Some things are very similar between UT Dallas and Rollins, but then there's a few things that are different. So I'm only going to really mention the differences. So for freshman application requirements, it's pretty much the same, except that we have a few more applications that we accept. We would accept the common application, the coalition application, and then of course our Rollins application, which is on our website. This year, we actually this is the first time in the history of Rollins that we are not requiring an application fee. So that is new. This was a decision that was made due to COVID and just trying to help people financially. Personal essay or statement, that is something that I read as your admission counselor. It's my favorite part of the application. So I highly recommend that you make it interesting so that we read about 30 or 40 of those a day. So it's important to make it interesting and tell us something that's not already in your application. So for the high school transcript, you guys are lucky in the sense that both of the representatives that work in the international admission office, we both speak Spanish and we're both from Central and South America. So in our particular case, we don't require a translation, but only because we work here. So if we had other people that didn't work here, that didn't speak Spanish, it would be required to have a translation. But we're a private institution, so we're able to do this. I just want to make sure that you know that other institutions will require it, but we wouldn't because we speak Spanish and we read Spanish. So it says a secondary high school report form and counselor recommendation. So some schools have something that's called a school profile. A high school has a school profile. It's usually on their website. If your school doesn't have one, it's okay. We can waive it, no problem. You just have to let us know. Counselor recommendation, if you don't happen to have a counselor, that's okay. We also would take a teacher, an English teacher, a Spanish teacher, anyone else that knows you well and that has experience with you in the classroom. So for the test score waived option, we've been test score waived since 2008. So we've been test score waived for a long time. Now, This is the first year that we have sort of changed our scholarships. In the past, we would only award the highest scholarships to people that did choose to submit their test scores. Of course, we still offered scholarships to those that didn't, but they were not the largest. And now it's pretty much an even playing field. And this is something that's most recent. It's just happened recently. So a lot of universities have changed their rubric for scholarships due to COVID. And so that's something that you should ask about no matter where you're applying. We do have an accelerated management program, which means that we offer a bachelor's degree and a master's in business administration in an intense program where you complete both in 5 years. Unfortunately, for that one, you cannot be test optional. So that's one thing I do want to mention. So early decision agreement, early decision is a binding contract where you apply to only one institution early decision, and that's usually in the institution you want to go to more than any other place. And if you get accepted to that school, then you have to withdraw your applications from other schools. So we do offer early decision. That's one thing that you should also ask about if you happen to be super passionate about one school in particular. And for the English proficiency, these are the lists that you see here are the minimum requirements. We don't have an English as a second language course at Rollins, and so that's the reason why some of these that you see here look quite high. It's mostly because we don't want to set you up to fail. We want to make sure that you will succeed at Rollins, and so the required, we don't budge on these minimums. So we do take the TOEFL, the IELTS, and the Duolingo English test. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is something that Avery mentioned, other forms of advanced standing credit. So even at the high school level, you can receive some transfer credit. And these are some of the ways. Advanced placement or AP courses, most of the time you need to have a 4 or a 5, depending on the subject. And to be honest, a lot of schools will have these charts on their websites that tell you exactly what course, what minimum, what credit. So always do a little search in the search box, look up advanced placement, international baccalaureate, and see what you can find. Specifically at Rollins, if you get a 30 or higher, in the IB, you can get to up to a year's worth of college level credit. So that could save you a ton of money, a ton of tuition, and also a year's worth of time. So this is another way. You wouldn't be considered a transfer student. You would still be considered a freshman, but you would just be a freshman with credit. And then exactly to what Avery was saying, we will not accept anything less than a C. So if you're transferring credits over, especially if it's the British GCE, so it's A through C, anything less than that, we will not give you credit for. Next slide, please. Okay, so we do the same thing. We do an evaluation of transfer credit. It's 4 semester hours. So we, in the case of most of you, regionally accredited institution doesn't necessarily mean anything because most of you might come from institutions outside of the United States, which means that they just have to be recognized by the Ministry of Education in the home country. I would also like to mention that in other words, if you have 2 years worth of college level credit, we will, and I'll talk about this in a little bit under the associate's degree, we do what's really a 2+2 program. So if you've completed what's equivalent to an associate's degree or 2 years in another country, we try to give you the most amount of credit as we can. But next slide, please. The tricky part is that we need you to have it evaluated by an outside service. So unlike UT Dallas, we don't have our own people in the office that can do this for us. And we are very choosy and very picky about who we will accept credit evaluations from. So Joseph Silney and Associates and Wes are 2 credit evaluation services that are found in the United States. You can send them your official transcripts and they usually get back to you. It's quite lengthy. Sometimes it can be 3 to 6 weeks, depending on the time of the year. So this is not something that you want to wait and to do at the last minute. You definitely want to send them your transcripts early. And there is some additional cost to this. On the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about, oh, can you actually go to the next one after that? Next one. Yeah, I'm going to go back in a minute. So this is the way that it works. So you would send them a copy of your transcripts. They would do the evaluation. You have to send it to them either UPS or DHL. And this does cost, the evaluation does cost anywhere from $160 to $200-ish. If you want them to send duplicate reports, it actually also has an extra cost. Now, we accept these digitally. We're on something called Access Wes. And so if you did send your transcripts to Wes, we would get a digital response. So it makes things a little bit faster so that you're not having to wait for them to mail it back to you and then you mailing it to us. So this is all a little bit faster than what it sounds, but digitally is the best way. And once we have this is what helps us to evaluate how much credit we can actually give you. Okay, and so now, if you don't mind, Gladys, going back to the previous one. Thank you. So the college officials report is something that we ask for all students that are applying as transfer students. We don't actually ask you for this in the beginning. We ask you for this after you've been accepted. So it's a little bit backwards. But we're actually hoping that you're telling us the truth. And that's why we don't ask you for it in the beginning. When you list your institutions on your application, we assume that you're being honest with us. And so this is really just to prove your honesty. The college officials report is just something that you would have to have signed by someone at the last institution where you are or where you're transferring from. Now, I want you to remember, similar to what Avery was saying, if you don't tell us and if you decide to omit that information, there's going to be a gap in the amount of time from when you graduated from high school to now. And if you didn't list what you were doing, if you didn't say, oh, I was going to XYZ University, we're going to ask you why and where were you all that time? So there will be some way or another, there will be a moment where you're going to have to tell us. So it's better just to tell us from the very beginning. And this is one of the ways that we do that checks and balances. The college officials report is something that we ask for once you've been accepted, and it's really for you to tell us which schools you've been to in the past 10 years. We don't have an official policy on dishonesty like UT Dallas does, but we are actually working on that. And I actually shared UT Dallas's policy with my VP, and she was very impressed. And she was like, "We need something like that." So I just want to put that out there. Thanks, Gladys. Next slide, please. Okay, so these last two slides are going back to an associate's degree. So if you're going to another institution, whether it's in the United States or if it's overseas, and you get the equivalency of at least 70 semester hours, 64 semester hours, we try to do the most we can to make it a 2+2 program so that you're not wasting time. So an associate's degree, in my personal opinion, it's the way to go. If you're planning on starting somewhere else, save yourself a little bit of money, live close to home, whatever you need to do, this is a great way to save money. And in the next slide, I just want to mention there's a resource that we have in case you are planning on attending a community college, especially if it's in the US. A lot of universities will have something like this on their websites. And it's basically a way for you to see, where can I get transfer credit from? And who does Rollins accept transfer credit from? Or who does UT Dallas accept transfer credit from? And what subjects specifically, right? So that's one of the biggest tools, I think, that would be very, very helpful for anybody that's looking to do first an associate's degree and then transfer to another institution. Okay, so that's basically it. I want to make sure that you guys have an opportunity to ask questions, so I'm going to pass this on to Gladys.
Thank you so much, Brandy and Avery. So now we're going to move on to the questions that you've been asking, but I also want to remind you to please stay tuned, do not log out, because we will have our guests back in with more information about their institutions. Okay, so one of the questions we received is, I think, Avery, you did answer this, but it will be good to reiterate. Are there any scholarships for transfer students?
Yes, for UT Dallas, we do what's considered automatic review of your application for scholarship purposes. So all students, regardless of whether or not you're domestic or international, you are automatically reviewed for our traditional scholarships, what's called the Academic Excellence Scholarship. Our institution, like most institutions, has a variety of other scholarships that are available that you may have to apply for individually. But for general purposes, all applicants are reviewed for our traditional Academic Excellence Scholarship.
I also would like to mention, so we do offer academic scholarships for transfer students, but across the board, they're usually smaller. They're usually less, and I'll be honest about that. However, what we've done to sort of get around that is we've started offering need-based aid to international students. And so if your academic scholarship maybe can only go up to a certain amount, as a transfer student, it might only go up to 20,000, let's say. We can add on top of that some need-based aid, but there is an additional form that would have to be filled out in order to be considered for that.
That's great information. Another question, if I enroll at a local university to audit or non-traditional credit, do I still apply as a transfer student?
You said as an audit?
If I enroll at a local university to audit, do I still apply as a transfer student?
Generally speaking, no. If you only audited a class, you have not received any course credit for that class. So you wouldn't be considered to have earned credit. It's only when you've earned credit from an institution after high school that we consider you a transfer student.
Correct, same.
Thank you. If I completed an Associate of Applied Science degree and want to pursue a bachelor's degree next, how should I apply? As a freshman or as a transfer?
Transfer, definitely.
It's like we're playing Jeopardy. What is the financial support like for students transferred from abroad? Financial support.
Similar to what I had said earlier, so the need-based aid would basically be one thing, but I believe that most students, if you're speaking from abroad, meaning international, they still would qualify for academic scholarships.
Okay, another question. I have already earned a bachelor's degree in my home country, and I want to start a new or different bachelor's degree. How would I apply? That's a good question.
I can speak to UT Dallas. You would apply as what's considered a transfer student, but you would be a transfer student seeking a second bachelor's. The one caveat to that is for UT Dallas, you cannot pursue the same degree in the same field twice. So if you've already earned a bachelor's, let's say of engineering, you cannot pursue another bachelor's of engineering again. You have to go into a totally different field.
It's the same at Rollins.
Okay, interesting. About the official transcripts for public and private institutions, does it have to be sent physically in an envelope from the institution, or is there a way to attach the transcripts via electronic or web-like Common App? This is because some institutions may take delays and do it via Common App. It's faster.
We do accept documents via hard copy, but if you've invited a counselor and advisor through the Common App and they have supplied a official copy of your transcript through Common App, we will accept that as official as well.
So if it's specific to a transfer student for us, because of the credit evaluation that we require, Wes or Joseph Silney will send us with the credit evaluation an original. So, so in other words, you don't have to send it to both them and us necessarily. Save yourself a little bit of money and send it to them. Spend the money and send it to them. And then when they share it with us, the original transcripts get shared and we count those as original, as official, I mean.
Brandy, do y'all accept the West ICAP as well?
What is the ICAP?
So West ICAP is, it's where West has a service where they provide an evaluation and what's called an International Credential Advantage package, where they do a certified evaluation and they send you a copy of the official transcripts along with that evaluation. It is an additional.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that would be, yes. I think that sounds like most of what we receive.
Okay.
That is great. And I do want to clarify before moving to the last question, that if you have any other questions after this webinar, I'm sure Brandon Avery will be happy to answer some questions and also seek advice from your local Education USA advisor. So our last question, do you have to be, I guess the question is, have you to have completed 2 years to apply as a transfer? It's just that it causes me a bit of confusion as some ask for 2 years or a little more. How could I transfer, since in my particular case, I studied 2 degrees at 2 different universities? The question is a little confusing.
So there's no minimum amount of time that's required to apply as a transfer student. The minute you step on another college campus and you start taking classes and you earn credit, that's the moment when you are a transfer student. And so there's no minimum. Like, I mean, we've had students transfer after a semester. You know, they went somewhere, they thought it was an experience that they were going to like, and then they really didn't like it, so they chose to go somewhere else. That's okay. But that moment when you start earning credit and you switch to another school is what makes you a transfer student. So there's no minimum necessarily that says you have to do 2 years. At least that's one part of the question. I'm not sure about the other part of the question.
We're similar at UT Dallas as well. The only caveat is we also look at, when we do our course by course evaluation, we look at the type of courses that you've taken. So let's say you're applying to a bachelor's of engineering program and all you've taken is maybe 1 English course and maybe 1 math course or something like that. We want to see that you have what it takes to, let's say, you may need to take a calculus course or something like that to prove that you have the prerequisite knowledge to be successful in our program. So while Brandy's right, we don't have a minimum. It is recommended that you've taken a number of courses to show that you have what it takes to transfer into our degree program. So some of your basic courses, math, science, English, history, you know, things like that.
That's great. Thank you so much for the answers, and thank you for everybody who asked those questions. So to move on, we will have next Dr. Juan Gonzalez. He's the Dean of Graduate Education and Associate Provost at the University of Texas in Dallas, and he will share a little bit more about his institution. Thank you and welcome, Juan.
Great, thank you, Gladys, appreciate it. And thank you to Education USA for the opportunity to talk about UT Dallas. If I can have the next slide. UT Dallas is a relatively large university. We have about 30,000 students. Currently, about 2/3 of them are undergraduate students and 1/3 are graduate students. And we are really dependent on attracting the top talent from all over the world. We have currently students from over 103 different countries. And we have a dedicated office, International Student Services Office, which provides immigration support and provides advice specifically dedicated for our international students. We offer about 140 different academic programs, roughly speaking, about 50 bachelor's degrees, 60 master's degrees, and about 30 doctoral degrees. And if I can have the next slide, it will show you that we are one of the largest universities in the United States. We're the 12th largest university in terms of international students. We have over 9,000 students. As I mentioned, they represent over 103 different countries. We are the largest university in Texas, in terms of international students. So international students feel very comfortable in our institution. Now you will ask, why do we have that many international students? First and foremost is because of our programs. We have very attractive programs in all areas of study, and they are very attractive to our students. And another reason is because of our location in Dallas. If I can have the next slide, Gladys. Dallas is a very attractive place to live. It's one of the fastest growing areas in the United States. It has a large number of Fortune 500 companies headquartered in Dallas. And many of our international students, after they finish, they end up doing their optional practical training or internships in the Dallas area in areas as transportation and studying energy, for example, or in high tech. So it becomes a very sort of attractive place for students to remain there and do their internships or their optional practical training. If I can have the last slide. If you have, very quickly here, if you have any questions about UT Dallas, please feel free to visit our webpage. It's www.utdallas.edu, or you can go directly to our International Center. It's just the same address /IC, or you can feel free to send us emails at issperspective@utdallas. If you have any questions, you can send questions directly to Avery or directly to me, and we will be happy to answer those questions. And now it is my pleasure to pass the presentation back to Brandy Frenson from Rollins College.
Thank you, Juan. Thank you very much. Okay, so mine is very similar to theirs. It's only 4 slides, so bear with me. So again, I'm the Senior Associate Director at Rollins. I've been here for about 5.5 years. As you can see in this beautiful photo of our campus, it's easy to see why we've been voted the most beautiful campus in the US twice by Princeton Review. The lake that you see in the background is Lake Virginia. Our students do take sailing classes, rowing classes. We have a Division I water ski team. The rest of our sports are Division II. So if you're interested in athletic scholarships, that's something that we wanted to mention. In the horizon, you might be able to make out there's downtown Orlando. So we're only about 15 minutes from downtown Orlando, which is a very international and metropolitan city. The average temperature year-round allows for a lot of outdoor activities. My favorite is Disney World and Universal Studios, which is only 35 minutes from campus. We are the oldest private liberal arts institution in the state of Florida, so 135 years old. But we are one of the smallest institutions in the United States in comparison, especially to UT Dallas. We're only 2,000 students, but we are small on purpose. We did that on purpose. We like to keep the classes small, the average being 17, the largest being 30. So we have 10% of our population is international with over 60 countries represented. Next slide, please. On this slide, you'll see a list of our majors. The highlighted ones are the most popular ones, but by far not the only ones. I do want to point out that we have 3 different business tracks. So the fastest growing, and we were actually the first university in the United States to offer social entrepreneurship as a major. Social entrepreneurship focuses on businesses that want to make the world a better place, businesses that want to create sustainable business practices and impact their communities in a positive way. So I love the fact that that's one of our fastest growing. It makes me very hopeful for future generations. I also want to mention that no class will ever be taught by a graduate assistant or an assistant of any kind. All of the classes taught at Rollins are taught by tenured professors, and many of them have been professionals in their field for many, many years. On the right-hand side, you'll see a small sampling of businesses where our students have either secured internships or gained employment. Again, that's just a small sampling, but I do want to also mention that we do have research opportunities where you can co-author research papers with your faculty, publish those papers. This is normally something that's not seen at an undergraduate level. It's usually only seen at a graduate level, but it does happen here at Rollins, and it helps our students to become more marketable and to be able to get jobs even before they graduate. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see a small sampling of the universities that our students have gone on to get either their master's degrees or their PhDs. We only offer one master's program, and it's the MBA that I mentioned before. It's the highest ranked MBA in the state of Florida. And so it is the Master's in Business Administration. You can combine it and do the Accelerated Management Program, which I mentioned earlier in the slides, where you complete your bachelor's in any of the majors that you see here and your MBA in 5 years. So it's an accelerated program where you basically shave a year off of the time. The next slide, I want to talk about financial aid and scholarships. So every student, regardless of whether you're from another country or from the United States, you are automatically considered for academic scholarships. There's no form or anything like that that you would need to fill out. We did raise our scholarships this year to be more focused on the grade point average due to the fact that so many testing centers are canceling tests like the SAT or the ACT. We want to make it a little bit more of an equal playing field. So we have altered our scholarships and made them a little bit bigger for people that can't take those tests. Even though we're test optional. And then, like I mentioned before, we're really proud to be one of the few institutions in the United States that offers need-based aid to international students, and those can be combined with the academic scholarships. And then my last slide is basically an admission profile example. I'm one of the people that would be reading. There's only 2 of us that work in the International Admission Office, and I'm one of the people that would be reading your application. As I mentioned, we read your essay, we look at a student holistically, we read the letters of recommendation, we look at your extracurricular activities, and we do recalculate your grade point average. So if you're still in high school, we don't count all the subjects. If you're in college, we do count all the subjects, or university. And then the standardized tests that you see listed there are just examples of the averages of what students have submitted. And then again, just to mention or remind you, we don't have an application fee, and you can apply through the Common App, the Coalition app, or the Rollins app. And that's it for me. Thank you for paying attention.
Thank you so much, Brandy and Dr. Gonzalez and Avery. It was a pleasure to have you as our guests today. And so with that, it's already past 5. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you to all of you who participated. Remember to follow us on social media for future webinars, and stay safe, wash your hands, put your mask on, and we'll see you in our next webinar. Take care, everybody. Gracias.
Gracias.